Magnesium is basically necessary for the activation and function of 700 to 800 enzyme systems in the body. It catalyzes most of the chemical reactions in the body, including detoxification through the liver. It synthesizes protein, stabilizes RNA and DNA.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Dr. Carolyn Dean to the podcast, and we're digging into magnesium and why it's so important for your fertility. So Dr. Carolyn Dean has been in the forefront of health issues for over 30 years and is a leading expert on magnesium. She is a medical doctor, a naturopath, herbalist, acupuncturist, nutritionist, and inventor who has authored and co-authored over 35 books, including The Magnesium Miracle, IBS for Dummies, Hormone Balance, Death by Modern Medicine, and 110 Kindle books. She's passionate about helping people of all ages achieve optimal health by taking a holistic approach to wellness. Check out her website at magmiracle.com, magmiracle.com. Before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Carolyn, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you.
Thank you for the invitation from way up north.
That's right. It's actually warm here, surprisingly. We've got about, I think it's 80 today. I'm not sure what it's like in Maui for you.
It's around 80 all the time.
Sweet.
Here in Maui. I know, I'm sorry. I poke people about this all the time. Even when I'm on tech support or something, I just casually mention, oh yeah, I live in Maui. It's terrible of me.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, you know what? I find most people, have their own story as to how they came to work in this field. So maybe if you can share your story with us.
Well, I was always interested in health and nutrition and exercise, even in my teens. And when I was in biology, I was in honors biology genetics in university. And at a certain point, I started recognizing that people in my science classes were in pre-med and going into medicine. And when a couple of young guys said, hey, did you get accepted into medical school, I said, no, but you guys are, you're just little punks. How can you be doctors? And that's what they were attracting back then, is really young guys with just 2 years of pre-med, straight out of high school, 2 years pre-med, and then they were going to be doctors, and they didn't know a thing about staying well or being healthy or keeping healthy. So anyway, I just on the spot pivoted, went over to the dean of medicine's offices at Dalhousie University, Nova Scotia, and bumped into the dean of medicine's assistant, who was my former high school guidance counselor, Miss Elliott. And I said, you led me astray. I should have been a doctor. But back in the mid 60s, they weren't allowing women to be doctors. So anyway, I got into medicine, and my thinking was that people weren't really listening to me when I said, get more exercise and eat properly and all that. And I figured as a doctor, they'd listen to me. And I was not dissuaded in all my crazy medical training. I just kept up the belief that people would listen to a doctor, and I wish more doctors knew about nutrition and nutrients, but they've just been so focused on drugs that they've forgotten even common sense. So this is why coming on a show like yours is so important to me, because I can give information to people to help them stay healthy, get pregnant, have healthy children, which you won't get from your allopathic medical doctor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you began to specialize in magnesium, which is the topic we're digging into today.
Hmm.
How did that kind of come about that you became I guess a specialist? I think I saw something on your website about a specialist rather than, I think you started as a generalist and became a specialist, obviously with magnesium.
Well, I'm was a family doctor, general medicine, and what happened is I practiced in Toronto for about 13 years, and then I was going to take a sabbatical, but then treatment modality I was working with for AIDS and chronic fatigue, a homeopathic acupuncture treatment. I got asked to come to New York to work on a study using that modality during my sabbatical. So it wasn't a sabbatical, it was a working sabbatical. And in New York, I started writing some books, and I got on a lot of TV, and then Random House asked me to write a book on magnesium. So it was just very serendipitous. My thought was, gosh, how can I write a book on for 300 pages on one mineral? But I knew about it from my naturopathic training after med school. I knew about magnesium, but it wasn't until I started doing the research for the book that I realized that I was a poster child for magnesium deficiency. I had Charlie horse leg cramps that would wake me up in the middle of the night, heart palpitations, and some insomnia and neck tension from all my computer work. So I started looking into magnesium. I found out that in trying to supplement myself with magnesium, I was one of the people that gets the immediate laxative effect from
Okay.
magnesium.
Yeah.
So it just was really important to me to educate people about magnesium, and then find ways that they could get enough to saturate their body, because magnesium is one of the most important nutrients that our body absolutely requires.
Yeah, so let's dig into it. So I guess specifically talking about, why would magnesium be so important for someone that's trying to conceive and for fertility?
Right. Well, magnesium is basically necessary for the activation and function of 700 to 800 enzyme systems in the body. It catalyzes most of the chemical reactions in the body, including detoxification through the liver. It synthesizes protein, stabilizes RNA and DNA, transmits nerve signals, relaxes muscles, whereas calcium contracts muscles, and it produces and transports energy called ATP, yet your doctor thinks it's just a laxative. So, I mean, it's life enhancing. If you don't have it, it's life threatening. It just couldn't be more important. So everything that the body needs to grow another body is magnified in magnesium. And what do you think about with magnesium deficiency? You think about eclampsia and preeclampsia. The fluid retention, the seizures, the high blood pressure. What did they do for the treatment of eclampsia? They put up a magnesium IV drip. And what happens? The blood pressure goes down, the seizures stop, the fluid starts draining off, and the woman and the baby, if they've caught it in time, are just fine. And then you wonder, well, why aren't they using magnesium to prevent eclampsia and preeclampsia? And you see in the literature that some people are doing studies, are using it, find it very beneficial, but it just hasn't caught on because medicine does not look at nutrients.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then I guess specifically of how it helps with blood flow and I guess spasms in the fallopian tubes, making it difficult for
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
how would it help there?
well, I consider one of the reasons for infertility is the spasming of the smooth muscles of the fallopian tubes, and we have many instances of women who who take magnesium become saturated with magnesium, and then they conceive. So we know it's working. And then there's all the endocrine balancing that goes on with magnesium, the support of the adrenals, the support of the thyroid. There's so much going on with magnesium in pregnancy that you can't even identify it all. And we don't have enough research and studies to talk about it in a way that doctors will kind of grasp onto it. I mean, doctors will say to me, well, I don't know if a McDonald's diet is bad. There haven't been any studies to prove that. So when doctors have lost their common sense, you have to, wait for the studies, quote, to catch up to be able to, quote, convince them of what they should really know just by using their common sense.
That's right. They only need to watch the documentary Super Size Me and how the fellow there ate McDonald's. I think it was for 30 days and almost died.
There you go. Good point.
Yeah. And so let's talk about how magnesium could impact blood glucose levels and why that's important for fertility.
Right. I mean, this is a huge topic. Sugar was the major thing that got me in trouble in Canada because on the Deanie Petty show, gosh, back in the day, 1992, she asked me to come on to a Christmas show and talk about sugar. I was writing a book on it. I must have been on the show before for other things. So there I was spooning out the 10 teaspoons of sugar that go in a can of Coke and 25 teaspoons of sugar that go in a milkshake. And there were a lot of kids in the audience, and oh my gosh, all the oohs and ahs. And then a sugar lobby group came after me for saying bad things about sugar on national TV. So I was attacked and then investigated, and they sent a plant into my office to attack me further. There was a complaint from this plant, a young man that came in the office who said, I refused to give him a homeopathic remedy on his first visit to me for his allergies. This was the complaint that opened the doors for them to raid my office and take files. And anyway, the whole thing was so draconian and so horrifying about sugar, which, I mean, sugar now we know is the worst thing in the world for so many things. Diabetes, the gestational diabetes of pregnancy, you really have to protect women against this. And what's sugar doing? It encourages yeast overgrowth, and then the yeast toxins can block the thyroid and block thyroid receptors, so that you get a very high incidence of hypothyroidism in pregnancy. The high insulin levels that are created to metabolize sugar inhibit ovulation and cause metabolic disorders, including PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And PCOS is a major cause of infertility in women. Sugar negatively affects your immune system. And here's what I defined. I did the math on this at one point. So at any one time in your bloodstream, you only have 2 teaspoons of sugar. 2 teaspoons of sugar. But if you drink a can of soda, that's 10 teaspoons of sugar. Mm-hmm. So you're on a roller coaster of the high blood sugar from drinking that sweetened beverage. The high blood sugar allows for a surge of insulin, and that tries to drive the sugar into your cells so it won't attack your kidneys and eyes and affect the rest of your body. So you get low blood sugar and you feel weak and tired, and then your adrenaline is triggered because of the low blood sugar and you feel anxious. So you've got all this drama going on that eventually causes insulin depletion and then insulin resistance, adrenal fatigue, and immune system imbalance. It goes on and on and on. There was a book, Natasha Campbell McBride, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, 2010. She says there are 28 atoms of magnesium that are required to process one molecule of glucose, and twice as many, 56 atoms of magnesium to process one molecule of fructose. And you think of the high fructose corn sweeteners that we all thought were fine because it was a fructose, it was a fruit. But it turns out that these sugars, worse for fruit sugars, cause magnesium deficiency. So you've got this magnesium deficiency created by sugars that causes all the things I mentioned. The study about fertility, I don't know if you've heard of the Harvard research study about the fertility diet.
Yes.
Yeah. Willett and Shavaro. 17,000 women. Over 8 years, they followed them, and they found that women with the highest glycemic load of their diet, which is eating a lot of carbs and bad carbs, they were 92% more likely to have ovulatory infertility than those with the lowest glycemic load, with
Absolutely.
less carbs, less good carbs. So, I mean, it's all there in the literature, but unfortunately, doctors, it's almost like they deer in the headlights, or they just shut down when they read anything about diet or nutrients. They think the dietitian should take care of the diet, and they don't believe nutrients affect anybody because they say, oh, if you eat a good diet, you're fine. And that is absolutely wrong.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess with the sugar and then the magnesium piece, so the magnesium is then being depleted due to these high sugar diet. Is that what's happening?
That's correct. And then if you try to achieve pregnancy with the low magnesium, we've already discussed that, and we'll talk about it more, I'm sure, where the fallopian tubes are in spasm and you're so tense and irritable, you don't even want to have sex in order to try to achieve a pregnancy. And if you go through your pregnancy with magnesium deficiency, you start developing high blood pressure and fluid retention and, heaven forbid, seizures. And once you start developing symptoms during your pregnancy, and if you're put on medications, then you compromise your womb and you compromise the fetus more and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, downstream effect. Okay. So let's talk about so magnesium deficiency, and then the link to PMS, painful periods, infertility. I guess we kind of discussed this a little bit, but why does it go right to, I guess, to some of those issues?
Right. Well, the PMS, magnesium helps the body produce serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter. And they say Prozac helps keep serotonin in the bloodstream by not breaking it down. So you've got the need for serotonin, but by doing it artificially with drugs, you create an imbalance where the body can't decide how much it wants, but you just keep stacking up your serotonin. And with PMS, there's a drug called Sarafem, Sarafem, which is Prozac with a pink bow wrapped around it. So it's this fluoride-containing SSRI antidepressant that is given to women with PMS. And actually, I did a paper way back in Toronto on magnesium and B6, how important they are for PMS. And we know magnesium levels fall before the period and need to be maintained. They help with the toxicity. When you're having your period, you're releasing toxins. So you want your magnesium to be high enough to help deal with the toxins that the body's trying to flush out. Magnesium helps with the tension and irritability, with the hormonal imbalance. And one of the things I really always mention about PMS is reducing the amount of red meat before the period is really helpful. The arachidonic acid in red meat suppresses progesterone production and can cause symptoms of inflammation that worsen PMS and can lead to painful periods. So There's something about magnesium working with inflammation. Magnesium also helps process essential fatty acids, and it calms the irritability of PMS and painful periods. And in women suffering from PMS that follow diets that were high in refined sugars, dairy products, refined carbohydrates, and who were low in magnesium, they had painful periods and PMS. So this, again, the studies are out there. We know what's happening, but nobody's talking about it. In the 7-minute appointment time that a woman has with their doctor, they just don't go into all these possibilities of feeling better.
Yeah, they're given a Band-Aid instead of getting to the root cause of what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit about this briefly, but as far as the signs of magnesium deficiency, so you talked about leg cramps, and what about migraines or fatigue, anxiety?
Sure. They're all there, and part of the pregnancy picture. We mentioned eclampsia, preeclampsia, muscle twitches, the leg cramps, anxiety and depression, even the fatigue and muscle weakness. I mentioned that magnesium is necessary to make ATP, the energy molecule of the body, the necessary energy for everything we do. And in the Krebs cycle that makes ATP, 6 of the 8 steps require magnesium. And that's huge. The whole Krebs cycle falls apart if you don't have magnesium. And then there's high blood pressure, part of the eclampsia. Even asthma, women, when they're pregnant, sometimes they have breathing problems. It can be just from the bronchial tubes, smooth muscles lining the bronchioles go into spasm and shut down some of the breathing. There's the irregular heartbeat, constipation, fluid retention, all these and more. I've identified 65 different conditions and diseases that are related to magnesium deficiency, but we're not allowed to say that. The FDA won't let doctors or producers of magnesium products say that magnesium can help with a disease, because then we make magnesium a drug, and then that drug has to go through drug trials, the billion-dollar drug trials now. And this makes it very difficult for doctors to educate the public. Again, I'm thankful for interviews like yours, where I can define these things to people that are so important.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And then, so we've talked about this as well, but as far as the impact for pregnancy and postpartum, maybe let's talk about postpartum health and being deficient in magnesium.
Right. Early on, I realized that postpartum depression and just the downer after having the high of all those hormones for 9 months, and the downer afterwards can be magnesium deficiency and zinc deficiency. And when women take those 2 minerals, they do perk up. I also add a homeopathic remedy called Ignatius, Saint Ignatius root. It's for perfectionism, women who want their pregnancy and delivery to be perfect. They want the aftermath to be perfect. They want to be the perfect mother. They're just putting this martyrdom of perfection on themselves, where it's just impossible to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And ever, but as a mother with doing so much multitasking. So magnesium, as I said, zinc. Also, what's important postpartum is thyroid. The thyroid has to be supported. I don't know if we're going to talk about thyroid later, but we'll get to that then. So, but magnesium to me is pivotal. And what we find is women who have their magnesium saturation during the pregnancy, they have a far easier delivery, and they're a lot happier. They tend not to get into postpartum symptoms, which heaven forbid. I mean, years ago, it used to be horrifying what happened to women when they had postpartum depression. And now, I mean, they're just put on Prozac, they're put on
Right.
medication, which is not that much better because of all the side effects of the medication.
Yeah, I just read an article about it was a doctor in well, I like reading Vogue, and she was talking about, yeah, her postpartum depression, and she was so excited that she had actually, it was diagnosed, and she had anxiety with her postpartum, so she was put
Mm,
on an anti-anxiety medication. I
mm,
literally wanted to rip the article in half. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why are
mhm,
we? Because usually Vogue will have some progressive thoughts on things, but I'm like, that is just so backwards. I just couldn't even believe it.
mhm.
Hmm. And how do you spell Saint Ignatia for us?
It's called Ignatia, Ignatia.
Okay, that's what I had.
Uh, yeah, it's a homeopathic. The potency could be 6 or 30, and usually just 2 or 3 doses a day for a week or two after the pregnancy. But people can research it and see what I'm talking about in terms of Ignatia. And the thing with homeopathic remedies is if they don't work, they don't work. They're not going to stir anything up or cause side effects. And if you think they're helping, you continue it for a couple of weeks. If after 3 or 4 days it's not doing anything, then you just stop it.
Hmm. Okay. And then, so a lot of people that come to us struggle with infertility. They've been on long-term birth control, and that was the case for me. I was, put on birth control,
Mm.
and now, that impacts their nutrient levels. So how do we remineralize the body?
Right. Well, the thing with the birth control pill, a lot of young women take the pill almost before their bodies are in a proper cycle. It's like your body never knew how to do it properly. The increase of progesterone and estrogen, the fall before the menses, and then the increase to mid cycle. All the body just never learned. So sometimes it's very difficult when you come off the pill for the body to remember what to do. I guess it's in one of my books, probably my Future Health Now encyclopedia, where I tell women to put a little night light in their bedroom and turn it on at the 3 days of when they should be ovulating. And you can mark it according to the moon if you don't think your body is cycling and is without ovulation. So you can stimulate your own ovulation. And I'm sure you discuss this with your patients all the time and clients. So you try to get your ovulation going. I recommend for gentle forms of detoxification to help get rid of the effects of the birth control pill, and certainly the minerals, the magnesium itself, and multiple minerals. I do personally work with products. I have a product company, so I know what I would recommend because I know the quality control of my products. So, but I don't mean this to be about products. People can research that if they want. But detox, getting your ovulation going. The remineralization starts with drinking sea salted water.
Yeah.
So you have some water guidelines that can be helpful here. You take your body weight in pounds, cut that in half, drink that many ounces of water every day, and in every liter of water you drink, put a quarter teaspoon of a good sea salt. And to me, a good sea salt is one that has some color to it. If it's just pure white, to me that means all the minerals have been refined out of it.
Do you have one that you like?
Oh gosh, well, we have a Hawaiian one here that I'm using right now. It's got copper in it. Oh gosh, Himalayan Celtic sea salt. There's gray sea salts too. I'm sure in the East Coast of Canada they have some good sea salts that you can get.
Okay, so you're taking your weight in half, and you get the ounces. So typically,
Mm-hmm.
an average of 8, but depending on if you're depending on your weight, and then a
Mm-hmm.
quarter teaspoon of the sea salt. And then how long do you think you would need to take that for then? Okay.
I just drank mine right now. That's your daily water.
A daily water. So
Oh yeah.
So one a day.
Well, it's what am I, about 108 pounds. So I'm drinking 54 ounces of water every day.
Mm-hmm. And you just do one of those, not the 8 glasses.
Oh yeah, in each liter of that 54
Oh,
ounces,
each liter.
I'm putting a quarter teaspoon of sea salt.
Okay, got it.
And when you look at the RDA for sodium, it's very high. We need a lot of sodium, but we don't need sodium chloride. We do need it in the form of sea salt, because there are 72 minerals in sea salt, and we haven't done enough research to know what we're missing. And I think about how sea salt has been used as a form of currency, how animals will travel hundreds of miles to a salt lick in order to get their minerals. We absolutely need these minerals.
Great. And it's a simple technique. And you said some detox strategies. Anything you wanted to recommend there?
Well, I work with precursors to glutathione. One of them is methionine, and the methylated B vitamins and food-based B vitamins together. The Bs are necessary for detoxification pathways. Methionine, taurine, those amino acids are sulfur-based, and there are sulfur detoxification pathways. The methylated Bs, the methylated group, helps the methylation detoxification in the liver. So there are these kind of subcategories of what your body requires beyond just taking some minerals and some vitamins. They're how the methyl groups and the sulfur groups are active in the whole processes in the body of detoxification, and so much more, actually.
Yeah, we recommend a methylated prenatal. So it would then fill the detox part of it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so let's just go into, let's talk about the thyroid. And a lot of people, again, that come to me, either they have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, or sometimes they don't even know that it's been, that they have that. And we go and, do their full panel, because a lot of doctors will miss that. And then they're prescribed Synthroid.
I know.
Yeah. So what's your take on the magnesium deficiency in the thyroid and the correlation?
Right. Well, it is pretty big. I know when people do start to get saturated with a good magnesium, they will say that their thyroid perks up and their TSH goes down, and they need less of their thyroid hormones. And so that's really important. But what I found when I was researching a multiple mineral that I made was that there are 9 minerals that the thyroid requires to make thyroid hormone, 9 of them. And so it's not just iodine, and it's not just selenium, it's not just magnesium, it's also zinc and copper, molybdenum, manganese. So we need all these minerals. But again, because medicine has this blind side about nutrients, they're not talked about. And even in natural medicine, where doctors say, oh yeah, well, we don't use Synthroid or these synthetic thyroid drugs, we use natural thyroid replacement, Armour thyroid, nature's thyroid, all those. But I say, no, don't wait until your thyroid's completely punked out. Start giving it the minerals that it requires now, and help it create its own hormones. I found 6 or 8 weeks into taking my multiple mineral with those 9 minerals for the thyroid, I was able to stop my Armour thyroid that I'd been taking for years, Armour thyroid 60 milligrams. So that's been a common happening with people who support their thyroids. And it just makes sense. Since when did all of a sudden our hormones die off on us? And I know we say that's the case with menopause and thyroid and even adrenals, but it really doesn't have to be that way. When we used to be able to get a good diet with all the minerals intact, because the farmlands were in areas where the minerals came down in the spring from the mountains. All the ice melt and everything would scrape the rocks and minerals and put it into the floodplains, and the crops would have all their minerals. But now the floodplains are where the best housing is. So that and big agri has farmed out the minerals. So we're at a point now where 100 years ago we could get 500 milligrams of magnesium in our daily diet. Now we're lucky to get 200. So when people say to me, "Oh, what food can I eat to get my minerals?" Or the vegans, the raw foodists, the vegetarians say, "Well, I eat tons of vegetables. I should be getting my minerals." Well, you're not. I'm sorry. That ship has sailed. And even if your farmer is organic, if they're not putting enough rock dust on the soil, if they don't have live soil with lots of worms and organisms to chew up those minerals, make them tiny enough for the plants to absorb them, and make them tiny enough for our bodies to absorb them, then we're just not getting our minerals.
Yeah, as you say, so 100 years ago, 500 milligrams for the daily diet. Now it's down to 200. So how much do we need?
Well, right now I'm saying we need about 600 milligrams of magnesium ions, not a magnesium compound. When you compound it with something, then it's not just magnesium. You'll see a label that says magnesium citrate,
right?
500 milligrams. Well, you look on further on in the fine print of the label, it says magnesium from magnesium citrate, 100 milligrams. The rest of it is citrate. So you've got to look at your labels for the elemental or ionic form of the magnesium, and that's what we need, and probably 600 milligrams. The RDAs are like 350 to 400. We need much more than that, because I see people, like I said, eating a great diet, maybe taking a couple hundred milligrams of magnesium, and they're still deficient.
Not enough. I just want to circle back to the 9 minerals there for the thyroid. So you've got iodine, selenium, manganese, copper, magnesium. What are the other ones?
I might have to look at that. Boron might be in there. I looked up my multiple mineral Remite. It's got 12. So okay. The 12 are boron, calcium, chromium, copper, iodine, magnesium, manganese, molybdenum, potassium, selenium, sodium, and zinc.
Okay.
Right. And that's hard to come by, because if a person tries to take all those in single nutrients, it gets difficult to organize it all. And what happens with minerals too, Sarah, is most of them are dirt minerals. What we need is minerals in liquid form. Minerals, what I've done is stabilize the ions of the minerals so that they're completely absorbed. Because what's happened, and we might come to it, when you have a lot of calcium in the diet, or women are told they have to take their calcium supplements when they're pregnant, well, maybe anywhere from 4 to 20% of that calcium is absorbed. The rest of it can precipitate into soft tissues. Magnesium doesn't do that. What it will do, if you've got too much to go into the cells, it'll create the laxative effect, and it'll be lost. But with calcium, it's anthropological what happens with the calcium and magnesium, because our ancestors grew up near oceans, because that's where we got our food. We got our seaweed, we got our minerals, and we got a lot of magnesium. Ocean water has 3 times the magnesium as it does calcium. So we developed mechanisms, the mechanism of vitamin D, to help us grab onto as much calcium as we could and keep it for our bones and teeth, etc. So what we've got now is people using high-dose vitamin D, getting too much calcium from that, taking high dose calcium supplements, getting too much calcium from that, getting precipitation of calcium in the body and calcification, DCIS, the breast tissue calcification, heel spurs, kidney stones, calcification of the arteries, of the carotid arteries in the neck, coronary arteries in the heart, and the kidney arteries. All this calcification is being caused because we have too much calcium in our diet and supplements and not enough magnesium to keep it soluble.
So gone the other way, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the multi-mineral you're talking about, that's a liquid that you're recommending. Do you have, so you have one that you offer there, or do you have any other ones that you can, so the one you
right.
Else?
Well, the Remite, we have our Remag Magnesium and Remite multiple minerals, but it is difficult the way Canada has become with importing dietary supplements. They make us go through several $100,000 to get a drug number, but we do ship to Canada. Otherwise, I mean, I think there are liquid minerals that people can look at, but I'm afraid I've kind of created this type of stabilized ionic mineral. I shouldn't say I'm afraid, but at this point, it's the only one that I know is 100% absorbed.
Okay. And we've talked about the adrenals. So let's talk about, the effect of magnesium on the adrenals and why that would be
right.
important for fertility.
Well, what happens? Right. Let's go back to sugar then, because what happens when people, as I said, you eat a high carb, high sugar meal, your insulin comes out to drop the sugar into the cells, and then with low blood sugar, your adrenals come out to push up the blood sugar, but at the same time, they're going to push the heart because it's a fight or flight mechanism. When the body drives out that adrenaline, it needs more magnesium to make more adrenaline and allow that cycle to continue. When you don't have enough magnesium, your adrenals get trigger happy, and then you start getting kind of a weakness from lack of magnesium. At the same time, this hyperness from adrenal surging. So magnesium, it's just crucial for the support of the adrenals. Also, the B vitamin complex is important, the methylated and food-based Bs, and vitamin C. Vitamin C is a complex, so I tell people to try to take some food-based vitamin C. You can also take an ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is only one of the 7 or 8 forms of vitamin C in the complex. So those are the 3 major things for the adrenal glands, and also getting some rest. I have a blog called Lying Down Therapy, where I feel it's just so important for women who just on the go all the time. They take action. You got a problem? Okay, take action. But if your problem is feeling weak and stressed and hyper, and your body's just vibrating with tension, you really need to lie down. And that's difficult for young people today. The women barely take time out from work to have their child, and they have to multitask their way through taking care of their partner and their baby and their workload. So I don't know what we really need to do. I think we really need to have organizations like yours to help support women and give them options and choices, and tell them how they can ask for help and how they can get help.
Yeah, a lot of times when I'm coaching people, it's like, okay, we're looking at diet and lifestyle, these different things, but let's just go back to me time. When's the last time, maybe you just did something for yourself?
I know.
Slow this whole thing down.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we check for magnesium deficiency? Is there like a little, I think you can spray oil on the skin to check. Do you believe in that method, or what do you think of that?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, some people think, well, if you're sensitive to magnesium, but I know when I was trying to get enough magnesium because I had the laxative effect from pills, my skin got really sensitive because it was so concentrated, the spray oil. But anyway, the best test is an RBC magnesium test, and we have a lot of people in Canada who are searching for the the RBC magnesium test. Down here in the States, you can get online testing from requesttest.com. But just keep asking in Canada. There are definitely labs that do RBC magnesium tests. Now, that is instead of the usual serum magnesium test. If you just do serum, what you're looking at is the magnesium just in the blood. And the magnesium in the blood has to stay at a certain optimal level to protect the heart. The heart is a big muscle, and the muscles really need magnesium to keep them from going into spasm because of too much calcium. If you have too much calcium compared to magnesium, calcium contracts muscles, magnesium relaxes muscles. So the serum magnesium is always going to look good because it's helping protect the heart. So doctors they just don't even bother testing for magnesium anymore. Here I am. I've written a 600-page book on magnesium with 600 scientific references, and yet doctors don't even do a magnesium level on your electrolyte panel. It's just crazy. And they don't, like I said, because it always looks good, so why bother? But if they do some proper testing, magnesium RBC test isn't even the best one. The best one is ionized magnesium. They have an ionized calcium test, but why don't they have an ionized magnesium test? So the RBC will help you, but really, Sarah, there's so many symptoms of magnesium deficiency. I just tell people, look, check out what symptoms you may be having as your magnesium deficiency. There is a blog that I've written, I think it's called Gauging Your Magnesium Deficiency. I'm typing it, I'm Googling it now so I can quote myself. Gauging Magnesium Deficiency Symptoms. And this list I took out of the Magnesium Miracle book, and I list the 100 reasons why you could be magnesium deficient. So if you look at that and you find, oh yeah, maybe I am, then you start taking magnesium. And you'll probably ask me what types, and I'll tell you, people can start with Epsom salt baths, for Pete's sakes, and prove it to yourself that you may be magnesium deficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work with a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and she runs all of our blood work. We run a blood chem panel, and it includes, the RBC magnesium test. It's
awesome.
Messed, yeah. Okay, so.
But let me interrupt. This is important, and I know you know this, but when you get your magnesium RBC test back, it'll have a range. And when I first started recommending the test, the range was 4.2 to 6.8. And I told people, look, you don't want to be down at 4.2. You want to be up around 6. You want to be in the top percentiles of magnesium, because the test that you do is done on a varied population. And when you know that 80% of the population is magnesium deficient already, that range is going to be testing this deficient population. So everybody below the 10th percentile is going to be deficient. Whereas your doctor will say, oh, you're 4.2, you're fine. You're okay. You really have to get that, get conscious of that. But after a couple of years, just this past year and a half, they have dropped the range to 3.8. As people get more and more deficient, as that general population gets more and more deficient, the range is lowering. And the doctors will say, oh, you're 3.8, you're fine. There you are, twitching with a migraine headache and cramps and insomnia and fatigue, and they're telling you your magnesium's fine, and take this anti-anxiety medicine and some antidepressants, and you'll be fine. That is really crazy.
Yeah, that's why we look at functional levels, which are different than the conventional pathological levels. Yeah. Totally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 4.2 to 6.8. So that's good to know. And you want to be in the 6 range. And really, correct. As you're saying, 80% of the population are deficient. So start supplementing. And as far as the foods, what are some ones that you can think of?
Well, seaweed is huge. That's because there's a lot of magnesium in the sea. Chocolate, like cacao, is really high in magnesium. That's why a lot of women crave chocolate before the period. But you want to stay away from the high sugar chocolate confections. You can make desserts with 100% cacao and blend up banana and avocado and cacao. Yes. I'll put some coconut oil and dip and cacao and dip a frozen piece of banana in that, and it's an awesome high magnesium dessert. But apart from that, if you start looking at farmed foods, we'd like to think that the green leafies have magnesium and the nuts and seeds, and they do, but not as much as we need. I have had raw foodists or people on their 40 ounces of green drink a day come to me and say, gosh, why would I have muscle twitches and heart palpitations and leg cramps? I should be saturated with magnesium and my minerals, and they aren't. And they're very healthy otherwise, so usually just a few days of taking magnesium and they're starting to get rid of all their symptoms. So I know from clinical experience that the food does not contain the minerals that we think it does.
And we've talked about supplementation, but there's a pill, there's oil, there's cream, all of them, what's your recommendation?
Well, if you can get a powdered magnesium, I know up there you do have Natural Calm, and you put Natural Calm in some room temperature water and sip it through the day, you have less chance of getting the laxative effect. And on top of that, you can do Epsom salts baths. You can get magnesium creams. The oil does tend to be irritating, so I would either mix the oil with some of your natural body cream or dilute the magnesium oil. So transdermal is good to avoid the laxative effect. And I guess I'm paying a lot of attention to the laxative effect because that's what stops people from getting as much magnesium as they may require. Because in a lot of cases, you're dealing with decades of magnesium deficiency. A lot of people who grew up as athletes and they sweated out their magnesium and never replaced it. People on poor diets or with a lot of stress or on medications, they need more and more magnesium. And in order to get that, you have to make sure you don't lose it by having the laxative effect.
So is it really to bowel tolerance? If you start getting loose stools, you've gone too far, or like how do you?
I know that's difficult because with me, one little dose of magnesium and I've got loose stools and I was nowhere near saturated.
Okay.
So you really have to look at those 100 factors that can be causing your magnesium deficiency. Look at that blog Gauging Magnesium Deficiency, and look at taking your magnesium to the point where you're losing your symptoms. Some people will take magnesium for a specific thing. Like I get heart palpitations. Oh, okay, they're gone. But then they'll find, I'm sleeping better and I don't get headaches anymore and I'm not cramping and I don't have that twitching. You really don't even know what are magnesium deficiency symptoms because you've been putting up with them for so long.
Yeah, you don't connect the dots. So, okay, so we're looking at Natural Calm, the powder, Epsom salt baths, and adding in sea salt to the Epsom salt bath. Why is that a good combination?
Well, you can add sea salt. I prefer to just drink it because I think it's kind of expensive to put in the sea salt. But, some people will put a cup or two of baking soda for a detox, a cup or two of apple cider vinegar. You've got a real recipe going on in your bath. So there's a lot of ways to detox. But, some of the customers that come to us, they're so toxic. They really even have to watch how much they put in their detox bath that can cause them to start draining out toxins. And when you pull toxins out of stored areas, then they can get into the bloodstream and make you feel woozy and off kilter for a little while. So there's something that I talk about called too toxic to detox. You just have to go slowly. We haven't even talked about yeast overgrowth. I think before a woman tries to get pregnant, they should detoxify their yeast and do some detoxing, and their partner should as well, so that you have a you have a clean vessel.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the Epsom salt, so I was looking about a cup. Is that a cup of Epsom salt?
A cup or two, but yes, if you're a sensitive person, then you might start with half a cup or a cup. And with babies, you can put Epsom salt in a baby bath, a quarter to half a cup, because babies get a bath every day, and that's a fantastic way to help them sleep and avoid the irritability and crankiness that can come with magnesium deficiency.
And then as far as the cream, is there any place to put the cream, or does it matter?
Anywhere. I mean, we use our Remag cream as a body lotion, head to toe. And it's a way of getting it transdermally. And what's awesome about magnesium, it's a great hydrator. So it actually helps with dry skin, and that the bumpiness on the upper outer arms that a lot of people have, that goes away when you use magnesium creams.
Yeah, I used to have that for years, like kind of those chicken arms. I'm like, how?
Yeah, chicken arms
back there. And as far as any kind of resources you wanted to recommend, obviously we'll have your book there in the show notes, but books or websites or apps, anything you think are like?
Right. Well, I've got a lot going on, Sarah, but probably the easiest thing is to send people to a site called magmiracle.com. And that's where I have a free chapter of my Magnesium Miracle book, and people can read that. It's all about information and getting educated so that you can make the right decision about your health, and not me just saying, well, take magnesium and you'll be better, and pat you on the head. It's really important for people to understand the importance of these nutrients, and then make the conscious decision to take them and learn about the effects that can happen. I have a blog called When Magnesium Makes Me Worse, where some people say, oh, I just feel so revved up on this magnesium. What it is, it's the body's waking up. It's like holding your arm over a chair for a couple of hours and it gets numb. When you take it back, the nerves start tingling because it's waking up. And that's what can happen to a person when they've been magnesium deficient for decades.
Mm-hmm. Any one success story you'd like to share with us? I'm sure you've got lots.
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we just get feedback from people saying I couldn't get pregnant, and when I started taking my minerals, I got pregnant. That's the only thing I changed. We hear that over and over again, and also perhaps the people who've been suffering from yeast overgrowth and they didn't really realize it, and that's where you've taken antibiotics and eaten a lot of sugar, had a lot of stress, and there's just more yeast organisms in your system than there are good bacteria. And I do a lot with yeast overgrowth. That's something people can Google my name and look that up. I think the two major things that are causing chronic disease and infertility in our population are magnesium and mineral deficiency and yeast overgrowth. So those are my two focuses or foci. It's a terrible way to end the interview with a bad grammar. I apologize.
So definitely check out your free chapter of the Magnesium Miracle book at magmiracle.com. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate all your tips and your words of wisdom here for us. And it's been very informative. So thanks again.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. And aloha.
Awesome. Yeah. Aloha to you. Take care. Hey there, Sarah Clark here. So are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, please know that my heart goes out to you. I support couples worldwide who are struggling with infertility to conceive and have healthy babies. Women like Rita, who gave birth to her beautiful daughter after following my fertility coaching system. Or Danielle, who after 2 failed IUIs was able to get pregnant after a supercharger fertility discovery call with me. So here's how you get my help for free. So I offer a free supercharger fertility discovery call. And on that call, I'll create a plan with you that is going to help you fast track your success. So this call is not for everyone. And I'm really picky about who I get to speak with. And I have a strict but totally reasonable criteria that needs to be met in order for us to move forward. So here's who I can help. So first of all, you need to be able to explore your infertility diagnosis in a new light. So this offers for people who are open-minded, they're coachable, and if you can do that and want to double or triple your chances at the fertility clinic or get pregnant, awesome. So let's get on the phone and chat. Also, you must be an action taker. So someone who's committed to seeing results, you're able to follow directions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything bizarre. But if you're one of those people who like to consume a ton of information, but don't like to spend time implementing and seeing results, then the call's not really for you. So I only want to spend time with people who are genuinely committed to their own success. So just click on the link in the show notes and apply, or go to fabfertile.com and click on the free consult. So it's a really short application that just tells you about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. So seriously, this is going to be the best time you've ever spent on your fertility. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTILE to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our fertility yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to your heart. These simple fertility yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. So for U.S. residents, text FERTILE, FERTILE, to 345-345. For non-U.S. residents, go to www.yogafreebie.com to access your special gift. That's www.yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. And I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman, medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine and chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is medicine by cause, not by symptom. Functional medicine practitioners don't in fact treat disease. We treat your body's ecosystem. We get rid of the bad stuff, put in the good stuff, and because your body is an intelligent system, it does the rest. Thanks for listening. Until next time.